do is just do like a forward thinking moment of how do you, you know, whether you're a parent or a teacher, an administrator, you know, we're always looking at school campuses from the standpoint of inclusion. And how do you begin to dream and design? Because there is a way to upgrade, increase our school campuses so that they become really inclusive for all of our children. So we wanted to offer this up today. We have two wonderful people, wonderful experts with us. We've got Corky O'Rourke, who has been an incredible teacher, mentor, and has been in our programming for 15 years. Yeah, about that. Yeah. And she's a wonderful expert. And she created a beautiful inclusive playground on her school campus. So we're going to lead off with her, and then we're going to introduce Scott Anderson, who is a designer and from Rec West. They're a wonderful rep for Landscape Structures, which is a leader in inclusive playground design. So we're going to head off after Corky with him. But why don't we start really quickly, Corky, and you take it away and tell us a little bit about who you are. And then when you're ready for me to get onto your PowerPoint, I'll share my screen.
All right. Well, thanks for inviting me. First of all, I'm honored to be here and to be a part of Shane's Inspiration. I love your organization, and you stand for all of the things that I feel are so important. I've been an educator for 37 years. I've been in special ed for a little over 21. And I have 3 kids, with my youngest having autism, who needed these parks to be able to access equipment that he couldn't motor plan to access a typical playground. So that's just a little bit. College View School is where I've been for the last 15 years with the principal I have now, but I've been there 17. We have kids that are mild to severely disabled. Their cognition is about 2 years and below. We used to just be moderate to severe, but we've included some typical kids now in our preschool program. So that's why it's mild to severe. And 7 years ago, we knocked down the building that was built for our school in the 70s. And it was a round building, and all we had for playground equipment were some adaptive swings. And they were for large kids, and that's all we had. So when we were able to use Measure S funds to rebuild our school, they knocked down that old building and they built a $27 million building that was designed by an amazing architectural firm. And our principal, Jay Schwartz, is an amazing leader and has been in special ed for, I think, about 30 years as well. And her vision and the architecture experience with this equipment and with Landscape Structures, we were able to build an amazing playground to support our new building, as well as give all of the kids a chance to experience a typical playground experience, but with specialized equipment. So if you want to start the PowerPoint. So that, yeah, College View School is where we are in Glendale. Our kids have mild to severe disabilities. We are a SELPA program, which means that we teach kids from Glendale, La Cañada, and Burbank, ages 3 to 22. We do have typical students on campus with a typical preschool. We have typical kids in 2 of our preschool classrooms, as well as a homeschool program that is on our 2nd floor with 1st through 12th graders. And those kids come down and volunteer with our kids. A third of our student population, and actually it's a little more than a third, we have about 37 kids in wheelchairs. And right now we have 87 students. So it's not quite half, but it's a little more than a third. Kids in wheelchairs. So, you know, we need equipment that's accessible not only to wheelchairs, but for kids that cannot navigate sitting up. And that you'll see that when we get to our wish list. So you can do the next screen. This is the front of our school. It's state of the art. They've been up for some architectural awards for the inside of the building. Then you can see the side is the next slide. That's down from the hillside where our coyotes and deer and bobcat live. It's funny, we had a bobcat come to our door about a week after when nobody was there, like, where are all the kids? Like, where's the commotion that's usually going on here? So, and then the next slide is our major playground structure that is on our preschool playground. So it's just for preschoolers, but when the preschoolers are not there, then our kindergarten, first, second grade class can access that equipment, and that is from Landscape Structures. The only thing missing for us is a ramp on that, but then you'll see the next slide shows our sway fun, which also the next slide is the ramp that goes up to that, where on our playground, the kids in wheelchairs can get on there, and there's a little table there where they can have their devices, or an aide can sit with them, and that's one of the things that we were really happy to be able to offer for kids with wheelchairs. The next slide is our some of the panels that we have. This is on the preschool playground as they're learning some of the letters and numbers, and just motor planning of how to move things forwards and backwards and up and down and things like that. The next slide is our adaptive swings. The two large ones were the only things we had on our last campus. Now we were able to get a third, and we have a typical swing for some kids that are able to adapt to that swing. The next slide, these are some more panels. These are music making panels, they're animal sounds, there's puzzles. This is great to take our kids, especially in wheelchairs, through. Some kids will go out, teachers will take a chair out with a student and sit by one, or an aide will sit by the one and use those panels. And that's in our back playground for our kids that are basically first through ages 22. And then we have our wish list. This is my personal favorite. The Oodle Swing. We have kids that are very, very impacted, that cannot sit up, don't understand the concept of being able to sit up and have the physical motor ability to do it. And this Oodle Swing has been incredible to not only get typical kids with our kids on there, but the smiles generated from the movement, to me, just warms my heart. So that Oodle Swing, I think there's a couple of pictures of Oodle Swing, because it's for all sizes. The young boy on the left, he's now in 7th grade. And I think that might've been taken last year, and he just loves that. So all the kids can be on it. And then our little preschooler there on the right, he loves that Oodle Swing too, so. And then the Weesaw, again, one of my personal favorites for myself, because I like getting on the middle there. I get on the middle and I start rocking back and forth with, and again, the faces of our kids to have that movement is incredible. And the seats are built in such a way that they can actually lean back a little bit. So a kid who is not proficient at really holding themselves up is actually quite safe in that seat. And I believe there are seat belts on those too. And so you can get 8, 9, you could probably get 10 people on that. And I just love the Weesaw. It's just so much fun. The difficulty in that one is having enough space. Luckily Scott was able to find place for us. And so that's second on my wish list, because I feel like those little ones who can't adapt to a lot of the seated things need something for themselves. And then the next one, more of the Weesaw, and you can see the little one there on the left. She's not able to sit up. The Oodle Swing would be awesome for her. But as you can see, we could have some of our volunteers from upstairs come down and be with our kids. And this was a play date at Rocket Universe, which has just amazing equipment on it. And the Seesaw is a great piece of equipment. And then the Omni Spinner, actually the teacher that is in there, that's her personal favorite, Eula. And I think we're kind of having a competition because she wants that and I want the oodle swing, but she loves that Omni Spinner. And I think I saw Tim Barrett has a picture of all of those kids. That was his identifying picture on Zoom, all those kids in that Omni Spinner. So, things where you can get all of these kids to participate on the playground and have a playground experience that's meaningful and sensory and just, it's a thrill for all kids, whether you have a disability or any level disability or not. It's great equipment. So, basically if we design our playgrounds with the kids with the most need in mind, all kids can access playground equipment. But if we just go with typical equipment that are on most playgrounds, then we've excluded the kids that need this experience. Our school originally with the Measure S funds was able to create this playground, and now for our wish list, what we have is we have a foundation that does not have the same guidelines as like our PTA or someone else that maybe wanted to get some equipment on the playground. So the foundation, the College View School Foundation, has really been great. They actually created a sensory room inside our school that costs like $50,000. So once those funds were used up, now we're saving up to put some new playground equipment, and maybe next time I'm here, you'll see that oodle swing.
Oh, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
No, and that's wonderful. I think let's open it up, Jennifer and Beth, and see if anyone has any questions. But I loved where you ended that, which is all means all. So if we can really start to rethink, even if it's in stages and phases, right? We don't have to do a ginormous playground that covers an acre. If you're just looking at space and size and where do you start, one of the things, Corky, I'd love to ask you, because I know as we're talking to parents and teachers, how did you guys get started and how did you make it a priority? Because there's a lot of different priorities in terms of funding and time and energy, and certainly as teachers, you guys are inundated. So how did you communicate the need and get everybody on board? Was there a campaign or?
It was really our principal's leadership. She's always taught kids with moderate to severe disabilities and always advocated for inclusion in a certain way, where they're not excluded from playing on a playground with peers. So she began it. And luckily, we've had some really amazing parents. Being the parent of a special needs child, I didn't know how to separate myself with my special needs child school and my typical kids school and the school that I worked in. And how did I didn't know how to do it all. And luckily we have some amazing parents that give, an afternoon a month to be a part of our PTA, our school site council, and our English language acquisition committee. Like it's all the same parents. And we really value their voice. And so they've been the backbone of our fundraising. So I just think that, giving those parents a voice has been important, but leadership is crucial. We've had other leaders that never taught kids like we have in our school, never taught them, but they were called in to lead our school. And I think that that was a huge disconnect. And having Jay as our principal has just been instrumental. Oh yeah,
She's
she's a
amazing.
rock star. She's a rock
Yeah,
star.
she's amazing.
She gets it. And so having her has been truly the magical piece, I think.
So Corky, I kind of have a question. Do you want to talk about the impact that an inclusive playground will have on typical students? You do have typical students on your campus, 1st through 12th. You've gone on field trips with us and partnered with typical friends. What does the playground bring for our typical buddies?
Well, I think the most amazing thing that I've seen is when the typical preschoolers will say, well, how come he can't walk? Well, can I take him on the swing? Can I take him on the sway fun? And so I think that having this equipment that all kids can use allows those kids to realize themselves that, oh, I can take my friend who's in a wheelchair and go on, or I can ask an adult to help me take my friend out of their wheelchair, out of their stroller, or walk them over or sit next to them. So it gives them a common ground that they can navigate. We would go to the playground with my kids when my son was little, and my daughter is up and down the slide in no time flat, but I had to help my son behind him trying to motor up a ladder, a very dangerous ladder for a kid at his age who didn't have the ability to do it on his own. So it made me have to be his friend when, if there had been a ramp, his sister could have walked him up. I didn't have to do it, So hopefully it engages more typical kids with this equipment, and also allows for independence of these kids and takes that adult out of the equation to always have to be relied upon. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's how I see it. To see the typical kids so curious about their friends that have some kind of disability. They used to always ask my daughter, how come he doesn't talk? Why does he do that? And so it just brings awareness and empathy for our kids, and now here's a common ground, right, to foster it.
No, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's the goal, is that, and I loved how you ended it, Corky, is all means all.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, the benefit is not just children with disabilities. That's an obvious benefit, but another deeper benefit is for the kids who don't have disabilities, who learn to play beyond their differences and understand the value of each individual.
Yeah, and for the parents that might be here listening, we have so many people in our school that, wonderful special educators, my principal included, but at the end of the day, they go home and they don't live with a child with a disability 24/7. So even though my child, he may be at school and now someone else is doing things for him, the worry never stops, the concern never stops. And so it's very different when it's your child. And so I would encourage all those parents to get involved in things like their PTA or their school site council, to have a voice. And I'm on the other end of it now, so I know the struggle of trying to do that. But even if you're there once a month, even if you ask now to be invited through Zoom, that's one of the things that Zoom has really done, is opened up the world of knowledge that we can get to people that can't physically be there. So I encourage you to be on those committees to make a difference for all kids, because I'm just a huge advocate for all kids to benefit from these kinds of playgrounds and situations in schools.
Yeah. No, and that's true. We've always talked about that most of our playgrounds have started from a mom or a dad or a grandparent who said, no, really, my child needs a place to play. And the power of advocacy, the power of voice, and the power of, collective creating this in
Yeah.
your community is huge. It'll change the world.
Well, when you think about it, you know, when you have young kids, you know, you walk them to the park in their stroller, right?
Mhm.
You, as soon as they can get on equipment, man, they're getting on. So it's very typical of what we do with little kids. And with our kids with disabilities, it should still be the absolute same thing that we do. And now we have equipment to support them.
Yes, we do. Yay, that's the perfect segue. All right, Corky, we have to release you because we know that you have a really important school event
I
happening.
do.
I do have a question though from
Okay.
Erin, and maybe Corky can address it a little bit, and then Scott can. She says, we have the opportunity to build an inclusive playground for preschoolers. What do you recommend as a baseline, structure-wise or more? Like sandbox, shade, garden. So for you, Corky, maybe you can quickly just state what you thought was important for your young kiddos, and then Scott can talk on the other end of how he supports schools on how to choose.
Yeah, sandbox has not been one of them. We have bobcats on our playground, so that wouldn't be good. Cats are not good in sandboxes. We have found recently that shade has been very important. So in building some kind of structure, make sure there is shade. In terms of the actual structure, climbing has been important because it's good motor planning, it's good for strength, it's good for agility and everything like that. And then those panels that you can get down below, we have one now that's going to be having a little kitchen in it, so that imaginary play is good, but the panels include everybody because they're at ground level. And I know Scott will speak more to that because there's so many different things that they can do through panels with music and educational panels and animal panels and abstract things. There's so many things that they can do. But yeah, I think it would be, think about the shade, think about panels on the ground level and some climbing that's offered.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Corky. And then Juan Ortiz, he had his hand up for a little bit. Juan, do you still have a question? I noticed you put it down. Let me unmute you. Hold on. There you go.
Thank you. Juan Ortiz over at 112th Street Elementary, and I am very interested in how is it that we can search for proper funding, grants, and whatnot. What websites do you recommend for that kind of thing once we've created enough demand from our parents and our students?
Yeah, you know, we didn't do any kind of special funding through grants or I haven't seen anything. We've done it through our foundation. So we're very lucky to have parents that are in certain occupations that they've been able to get other people to donate, because, you know, when you only have, like for the last few years, we've had between 50 and 65 families. You can't keep asking them for money, and it just doesn't, it takes forever. Well, we just got a $50,000 donation from a lawyer's family, and you know, we're blessed. So it's definitely, it's reaching out to our community for them to reach out to their community and have a foundation where you don't have rules and regulations about how to spend that money. That's been important with our foundation.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great.
Sure.
Yeah, and I would also, just to add on to that one, I know 112th Street, we love you guys. You've been with us for what, like 17 years now. And, you know, I think it's looking at corporate sponsorship. It's looking at, especially if you're in an area that's a little bit lower income, just really reaching out to the corporations around you. And we can help kind of guide you. We have some foundation sort of templates that talk about the importance of playgrounds, the importance, the benefit of inclusion. And so we can follow up and help you with that. But I think at some point you do have to start looking at, you know, what are the corporations in your area? Because I think there's a lot of them. So, you know, and the beautiful thing about these playgrounds is once they see the benefit and they see the kids on the playground, and yes, we will get there again, that's where they realize, like, wow, the impact that this had. So
I'm wondering about how it affects not only the school community, but is it possible for us to involve the city to create more parks with these kinds of playgrounds?
Well, we've been in partnership with Recreation and Parks in Los Angeles since our very inception. So they've been the best partner on the planet, and they have built, oh goodness, now we're at 34 in the county. So I think that's definitely an interesting conversation to have. But what happens on your school campus is going to be, sort of at the purview of the school community and the Division of LAUSD, Division of Special Ed, and but it's an interesting conversation, and Los Angeles Recreation and Parks continues to build inclusive playgrounds, even now when we're not on them yet, but yeah, they've been an incredible partner. So.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for all the advice here.
All right, and we're going to continue with Scott. So Corky, thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and Scott, good to see you again. So thanks, you guys. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Corky. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to hand it off to Scott, and I'm going to let him introduce himself, but I just wanted to share a little bit. We've known Scott for several years now. And we've been in partnership. So he's with RecWest, and they are a landscape structures equipment, our go-to resource here in Southern California. And we've been in partnership with LSI since our very first playground. So we're going on 20 some odd years. And they create incredible equipment, but they also create incredible partnerships, which is part of why we love working with them and why we're so happy Scott can be here today to talk a little bit about how do we design, how do we think through inclusive playground design on school campuses, and then what are the partnerships we put in place to make that happen.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna turn it off to you, and let me know when you're ready for the video.
Perfect. Yeah, my name's Scott. As Marnie mentioned, I work for RecWest. We represent landscape structures in the Southern California area. And yeah, I've been privileged to be introduced to Inclusion Matters, Shane's Inspirations through landscape structures, and have gone on a couple play dates myself with them. And, I've had just a wonderful experience. And, prior to that, my experience was working in recreation. I ran an adaptive recreation class for a period of time in the Oak Park area, and then lifeguarding, swim instruction. So recreation has just been a part of my life. So coming into playgrounds was kind of a natural fit for my trajectory of life. I want to thank you all at Shane's Inspirations for thinking of me and inviting me on the call. And of course, everything Corky had to mention, I could echo a lot of what she shared. But let's start with the video, and then we'll go from there.
Play isn't one thing. It's everything, anything. Play doesn't care what a body can or cannot do, because play lives inside us, all of us. And as we grow older, we come back to what we know. That play will always shape us.
Yeah, so I wanted to share that video because it just kind of inspires me and it gets me in a mindset of what play can be. For me, after watching that video, I asked myself a series of questions, and I try to ask my clients that I work with as well, because I'll hopefully have a chance to work with a lot of you face to face or somehow help you answer a question you might have. But what is play to you? How do you play? How would you like to play? And where would you like to play? So those are kind of some qualifying questions that, I ask myself when I'm coming into the playground design environment, because every need is different. One thing Corky mentioned was our needs aren't typical. So knowing that, how are we going to play? What's the outcome? What is the goal for our children at the campus? So we can roll the first slide.
Perfect. Let me just hop on here.
Yeah.
And here we go.
And I'll talk as this is rolling through. So I love sharing this picture just because this is my daughter when she was 2. And actually this is on Brandon's Village, a playground that Shane's did in the Calabasas area, which is a fantastic park. And But we can go to the next slide. As any parent loves sharing pictures of your kids. So, when I'm looking at a playground and kind of the details of how a playground is designed, there's lots of parts, and I don't want to talk about all of them today. The parts that I'll focus on is the first three, and maybe even the fourth one. I'll touch on that a little bit. But the first thing, as I mentioned, is to envision. So those qualifying questions: what is play to you? How do you play? How would you like to play? And where would you like to play? Kind of help tick off some of the boxes of what your playground could look like. What are the needs that are going to be met, and then analyzing the site as well. Where do you have the space for a playground? And these questions are questions that I would be able to help you answer, or you could answer for yourself. But the analyzing is a big part, because you're looking at the space for the playground and also the needs that the other children will have in the space, typical needs, non-typical needs. And then the design is where a lot of fun comes into play, and some community outreach, community opinion. And then I will touch on raise. As Juan, as you mentioned, a big part is raising awareness about your project. Once you have the design complete, that's the tool to then share it with your community and get awareness around your project, and contact someone like myself who has connections to partners who have funding and are looking for opportunities to fund playgrounds in various areas. So we can be a great resource for you on that. We can move to the next slide. So I want to tell a few stories. This story, what you see on the left, is a Google image of asphalt. This is a school in Long Beach that their population needs changed. They were at 8% of the children at the public school campus that had various disabilities, and they needed a playground. They had no playground equipment. So what happened 7 years ago was a project was started. But then 6 years into that process, there was one individual, a parent, who stepped up and decided he was going to make this project happen this year, and he made the project happen. So the picture on the right is the completed playground, and through district partnership, corporate grants, fundraising efforts, he was able to fundraise and get the funding needed to make the playground happen. And the way we did this playground was very unique, and you can roll to the next slide. So that's the finished product. It's a Long Beach Public Elementary School. 60% of the structure is accessible by ramp. So a child in a wheelchair would be able to access 60% of the structure. Now, to serve the needs of all, there are parts, of course, on this structure where a child in a wheelchair couldn't access, but it just makes a very nice, well-rounded playground. There's ground level elements, and then there's those pieces, the play features that are above grade. So a child in a wheelchair can get some height and get into the structure and interact with the other children. And the other children can interact with them on the structure. So this was done via community build, in efforts to even save further money. There was a community outreach around the project. They took it to the local district. The local district helped fund some of it, but then parent efforts and corporate grants made the project happen. And then through community build, and then working with Landscape Structures, myself, Rec West, we were able to organize the volunteers, the man and women power, to make this project a reality. So it was built by us, by the community. So it's a really cool, culminating event to be able to start the design, work all the way through, and then actually build the playground for these students that prior to this had no playground that they could utilize at all. So we can move to the next slide. This next project, this is the current condition of a playground in Goleta. The surfacing is atrocious. The playground equipment is in good shape. So this is resilient poured in place surfacing, which is considered accessible. However, the shape that it's in, it's not in great shape, needs to be repaired. But the playground itself, in analyzing this, is fine. Nothing needs to be done. However, the population changed here as well. The school particularly had great resources in aids and other programs to help non-typical students, but the equipment there doesn't serve those needs. So about a year ago, a parent group contacted me, realizing that their needs had changed, and asked, what can we do? Do we need to tear out our playground? And, you know, fortunately, this was a landscape structure, and we're able to retrofit it. So if we go to the next slide, through a few revisions, we were able to come up with this structure. So what you can see kind of the middle of the page to the right is the existing structure. From the left side, or sorry, from that middle to the left side of the page is a brand new structure. And then there's some other elements that we're able to switch out and freshen up throughout the structure. But we were able to, we will be able to retrofit that playground structure that you saw is 16 years old. So we're able to retrofit a 16-year-old structure to make it serve the population much better. And these are, you know, parents who just ask the question, is this possible? Our needs have changed. How are we playing currently? What do our needs look like? And we were able to get connected, and we're working through what that will look like. And this will be funded partially by the district and partially by the school, and then also partially by the parents raising money for this project. So you can move to the next slide. So the next slide is another public elementary school in Santa Monica. And this is a project that can be done in phases, as kind of Corky's project is. So what you're going to see here on the left side of the page is a sway fund, very similar or exactly to what College View has on their site. They also have on the behind that a roller table, which is great for sensory needs and development. Next to that, of course, is the We Saw, which Corky mentioned. And then we have the We Go Round. The We Go Round is a piece of equipment that rotates all the way around. It spins just like a traditional merry-go-round, but a child in a wheelchair can access that structure on their own, and they can take part in spinning the We Go Round through that center disc. So it's a really fun piece for children of all abilities to play and interact with. So the plan for this project is and just to kind of give you a breakdown of how all these projects are going to be funded, because I think that's important to talk about. With this project, there was a parent group that started a foundation, and then through that foundation, they're raising money to that foundation, which will eventually fund this playground, and it will be done in phases. So they'll purchase and install 2 of the pieces at first, and then work around as funding's in place. So they have the abilities. They have the ability to do that. You can move on to the next slide. So this is the project with the Caneo Elementary School, and it's a preschool for children with special needs. And on this campus, the teachers, so you might be able to recognize the framework of that center kind of dome piece. That's the We Go Round structure. They didn't want the We Go Round on their campus, but what they wanted was a piece that some children who are able to climb can climb, but then the child who's in a wheelchair can also interact and be a part of that fun, and then also have something to do with the sensory panels that are there. So what we were able to create together with, I mean, this is their brainchild. They gave me the ideas, and we're able to create this piece of equipment that served their needs perfectly. So this will be going in this summer in a school in the Thousand Oaks area. So just a kind of a range of the abilities that we have to serve you. And, you know, we're a resource for you. Please contact us. I'm, you know, the first part, I love the essence of this call is to, you know, think towards the future, plan and dream, because that's how all projects start anyways. So, you know, some of us don't have as much time on our hands now because, you know, we're at home, and I have 2 young children, and there's some challenges in that. And some of us have more time, but, you know, this is definitely reprioritized a lot in my life personally. And, you know, I'm happy to be a resource for anyone who is curious to know what their playground could look like and help answer some of those questions for you. And then the next few slides are just a few of my favorite things, a few of my favorite components to share with you. And then in the chat notes or somewhere, there's links to recwest.com, and then also Landscape Structures YouTube channel, which I think is a great place to access video content of various components to see how they come to life. And yeah, be able to engage with them. And I believe my contact information will be there as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And yeah, again, thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you.
I do
So
notice, Marnie, that someone does have a question
perfect.
from the earlier segment, but I think that it might be pertinent. Pamela, do you still have a question around theme? Would you like to ask a question? Let's unmute you.
Oh, there we go. There you go. No, I just had some comments and such that it's all wonderful, great information. I'm an adaptive PE teacher in the rural area, Central California, in the mountains, Yosemite area. And in trying to keep the steam forward and keeping the momentum forward so that these playgrounds get built, I've tried to also talk with school board members, and that has seemed to help as well. Sometimes principals seem to rotate out by the time a playground is purchased or bought, and then by the time it's built, players rotate out and then the momentum is lost. So school board members have helped, and then also politicians have helped kind of move it forward. And then the other thing is, I also think that, you know, we talk about the parents trying to move these forward. And I also think that why can't, you know, the staff realize that the playgrounds have gotten older and realize that they need to be upgraded. It frustrates me. I think the playgrounds, you know, when we say that they need to be for all, why can't the professionals around realize that these playgrounds, you know, if a classroom is accessible, has to legally be accessible. If the libraries have to be legally accessible, if a cafeteria stage has to be legally accessible, the playground, for Pete's sakes, needs to be legally accessible. And parents have so much on their plates, parents of disabled children, that the staff needs to realize that. And so I get a little frustrated by that. But so anyway, those are just some of my comments. So sorry for rambling.
Well,
You didn't ramble at all.
No, not at all.
No, that was perfect.
I mean, I think Pamela, I mean, I am a school teacher. I haven't been in the classroom for a while. I've been with Inclusion Matters, but when you talk about staff understanding the importance of accessibility, right? I think if we can kind of bring staff aware, and maybe, yes, it's about accessibility, but it's even about inclusion. So if you start having the dialogue around inclusion and how the importance of play can actually help a child in the classroom, even as 5th graders and 6th graders. So if we can start to bring awareness around that and have conversations, because we're super well equipped to help our special needs kiddos, or kids with special needs, for their IEPs, and we know how to help our typical kids meet standards, but we're so busy doing that we forget that social component. So if we put together the importance of social inclusion and the importance of play, and we can certainly help have conversations with you. We deliver professional development for staff on this, what is social inclusion 101, and help bring about awareness. Then that sort of shifts, because I was a school teacher and I was like, oh, you know, when I got this job, I was like, oh my gosh, that was the piece I missed. I was so focused on helping my kiddos with IEPs and getting them, my typical kids, to their state goals and standards. And I missed that component of social inclusion. We missed that beat, and we do it through play. So
a light bulb moment.
Yeah, it was really a light bulb moment for me, you know, so maybe that's something to consider and think about. If you want to talk later, we can, you know, if there's something that we can provide you with, you know, information, then we're happy to do that.
So we just to follow up on that, so Scott's information is in the chat box. So if everybody just take a second and look in your chat box. And then I also put in a video. It's a really short Edutopia video on why inclusion matters on the playground. But it's from the gen ed perspective, which I really appreciate, because, you know, as special education teachers and parents of kids with IEPs, we get it. But to have a general education teacher be able to articulate it, it's just a nice reminder of why, you know, why do these playgrounds matter? Why does inclusion matter on your campus? And how do we get forward thinking and re-envision it? So, all right, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. And if you, again, you have Scott's email, you've got mine. If you have any questions moving forward, let us know. And I think, of course, thank you, 112th Elementary. We're so happy you're here. We're just happy to see faces. We're like, oh, we miss you guys. But it's the funding question is always the question. And I know LSI has some great funding tips, and we can certainly, just help give you guys some links to brainstorm. I wanted to do one more. I'm sorry, I'm dragging this out, but I did want to share with you one of our partners, Too Small to Fail. And we had a conversation about the 0 to 5 play space. So they're just a wealth of tips and tools, and we've been working with them for the past few years on incorporating communication panels in our playgrounds that are specific to that demographic. And they're such a wealth of information. So I put Too Small to Fail in there as well, because they really are a 0 to 5 wonderful resource. So yes, we can. We got a question about from Gabriella. Yes, we will have this recording available to you. So, all right, you guys have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Scott, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you again.
Thank you for all your information. All right, you guys, be well. We'll see you next week, and we will be on to speech therapy next week. So if anyone wants to veer towards that, we'll be there. Okay. All right, you guys, take care.